Can I knock it now? Okay. This meeting is, for the Malta River School District Board is now called to order. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so public comment and Jimmy Lanahan, come on up.
Good evening, directors.
Hey.
Good evening.
I guess, good evening, Chair. So I went over the Jurassic Parliament, and it says that I'm supposed to direct to the chair.
Right.
So I just had a couple of points that I found odd, that I think would be more useful in the opposite.
Thank you.
One was regarding the regular or consent agenda items. And in the Jurassic Parliament, it says that no questions can be asked by board members regarding surplus items, personnel report. That's something that we regularly have done in the board meetings in the past. I think it's useful if a board member saw something and they wanted to ask a question. In the Jurassic Parliament, it shows that it's just a yes or a no vote, no discussion. I think it's more valuable if discussion could happen. Also with the Jurassic Parliament, when it came to public comment, there was one in there, it says a school board meeting is not a meeting of the public. It is a meeting of the board held in public. Well, I think that's technically true. I also think it could be kind of a decisive comment to people, like they're not part of this. And we're all a big family in the team. And I just thought that maybe we should have that. Lastly, I wanted to give a big thanks and applause to the district. While perusing the employment pages, I noticed that special education instructional assistant will now be required to either have a 2-year degree, a 2-year college, 2 years of college, or pass a paraprofessional test. I think that will be immensely valuable for kids coming up, have an educated, properly educated person assisting the teacher in learning. Lastly, this is kind of an early warning suggestion for administration to pass down. I've been noticing a lot of intolerance and hate in regards to sexuality and homelessness in our community. That happens at the parental level, is where I've been seeing it. Now, what I've learned as a parent, monkey see, monkey do. As we're going into the school year, I think it would be wise if everybody was just really cognizant of that to make sure. I'm not saying that I think we should preach acceptance, but we should always preach tolerance. Any side, be tolerant of any side. If I want you to accept my opinion, I gotta accept your opinion. You know, we might have a difference. Lastly, I'm hoping that a board member or Mr. Mann could share about National Night Out on Tuesday, the time, everything. I think that's a great event. I've always looked forward to coming by and seeing you guys out there. Other than that, you guys are all having a great summer.
What was the second item on the Jurassic?
It was the public comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When is National Night Out?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I can talk about that if you'd like.
Yeah, Rob will be there.
Yeah, what?
National Night Out will be Tuesday night, August 1st. It's from 5 to 7:30. It's at the Clark Park. And it's hosted by the Malta Police Department every year. I'm there every year too. I'll be there as a presenter. So it's a great night to bring in most of the stuff is free. I don't know this year if they changed some stuff because I know that there's going to be a lot of food trucks there that people can buy food stuff, but it's a great event for the community and great event to bring kids out and let them, you know, be around firefighters, police officers, local officials of our town. They usually have 911 operators there and everything too, and a lot of different groups from our city. It's a great event.
Wasn't that one that where they closed the street?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
used to,
now
we
we
did it, yeah, did it out here
I love
at
that,
Park
yeah.
before, but now we're doing it up at Clark Park. And they're
Okay.
closing part of Shirley Street there for us,
Okay,
so.
yeah, we were there the last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a booth.
Great. All right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Any other public comment? Virtual at all?
Let me just double check.
All right, I'm gonna ask the clerk to take the roll.
Okay. Director Cummings,
Here.
Director Lockridge,
President.
Director Stafford,
Yeah.
Vice Chair McNeil. Here. Chair Eskridge.
Here.
Superintendent Han.
Here.
Yes. All right, thank you. A quorum is present. So, next on the items. Consider changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 1C action items, job description for assistant teaching and learning director. Recommendation is for approval of this write-up from Jennifer Ellis. Would you like to say anything about it? Since you're the one that wrote all this good stuff. We have both job descriptions, one's for physical therapist and one's for the assistant teaching and learning director. So if you want to give a little short synopsis of both.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah,
The Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning is a new position this year that you all approved back. Tamara Jackson was hired for the position and you approved that hire back in March. We brought you the job description for a first review and then neglected to bring it back for final approval. We thought we had done that in April, so my apologies. So we are bringing it here this evening. The second job description is for a physical therapist, and this is a position that we have been typically contracting out to contracted services. And Robin Show, our new, well, she's not really new anymore, but our Director of Student Support Services, would like to try to fill this as a part-time position as a district employee so that we have someone on site all the time to be able to serve our students. And I think this would be a great addition to the team. I don't know that we'll be able to fill it, but this is at 0.4 FTE. This is what she feels she needs to serve the students. And we're going to try to see if we can hire an employee. And the first step to do that is to write a good job description. And we didn't have one because typically we contracted it out. So.
she has the 2-year education through college. Is that one of the requirements?
Well, that would be for a
Physical therapist.
physical therapy assistant.
Okay.
We're going to try to find a fully licensed physical
Good,
therapist.
all right.
Yes.
All right, and then the other one is a master's degree, and she has also another administrative.
Yes, she has
License?
her
Okay.
administrative credentials and her master's.
Okay, great, so that's what we want. All right. Any other questions or
If there's
comments?
any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
You answered my only question, which is gonna be how successful do you think you'll be able to hire somebody as a physical therapist, part-time?
Well, we won't know unless
Good luck.
we try,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, if we have to continue to contract it out, we will. But again, the first step to trying to hire is to have a job description to post.
Absolutely.
So,
We don't
we'll
have enough
see.
for a full-time physical therapist?
I don't think so. According to
Okay.
Robin, she feels that 0.4 FTE will be sufficient to serve the needs that we have.
Okay.
Not to say that may not change later on, but for right now, that's what she's looking to.
So this is up for a motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the job descriptions for the assistant teaching and learning director and for the physical therapist. That's
Okay.
IC1 and IC2.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay, that's 5. All those opposed? 0. All abstentions? 0. Okay, the motion has passed. You have your position.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Now the Jurassic Parliament recommendation for adoption. This is another one that's up
Oh, I'm
for.
sorry, Madam Chair, looks like you may have skipped.
Oh, I skipped the lunch, closed campus lunch proposal. Okay, You're next, Tony, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Skip right over
That's
you.
all right.
Thank you.
Director Esper, Chair Esper, Directors, you'll recall that your last meeting, your business meeting, I shared some information with you regarding attendance at our high school. Post-pandemic isn't unlike attendance that we've seen across the public education systems that I'm familiar with. This is not unique to Milwaukee, it's not unique to Oregon. Post-pandemic, for students that are attending school regularly has become a challenge for a variety of reasons that are separate from why I'm talking with you about open campus tonight. But I want to just amplify the fact that we're concerned about attendance at all of our schools, particularly at our high school. We saw attendance drop as we came back from the pandemic. These are data that I shared with you at your last meeting in that first full year, or the first full year, in the full year, how do I say this? Prior to the pandemic, the very last full school year we had was 18-19, and that 18-19 school year, our students were attending at a rate of 89% of the time. Improved that in those first 2 trimesters just before the pandemic, that spring of 2020, 91% of our students were attending, or our attendance rate was 91%. We returned from the pandemic, and in particular, I brought this to our attention because during the pandemic, or excuse me, just prior to the pandemic, the board had approved open campus for lunches at our high school. And it was approved as a pilot program to pilot that spring of 2020. As I shared last meeting, my years mixed up here, right? The 21-22 school year was the first full school year as we started to come back. But there was still a lot of challenges we were facing around local control and masks, and a lot of things were grabbing our attention. And I take responsibility for not bringing back to the board during that year the data from what would have then become our pilot, right? That year after the pilot of open campus. What is the impact of open campus? Because that's what the board expected when students brought the proposal to us. So let's gather some data and see how this goes. And the students were sincere, saying, we're gonna make sure student leadership is responsible for promoting open campus, and the students are respectful with the way that they approach open campus. Anything I'm gonna share tonight is not a criticism of our students. We've got wonderful students, but kids are kids. And I have some data that I would bring back to you tonight that focuses specifically on attendance before lunch and after lunch that are problematic and adding to this overall decrease in attendance at our high school. Again, just to amplify that drop from 89 to 84%, is on average students losing 9 days of instruction on the school year. So for every percentage point, it's a minimal amount of instruction. These next data are specifically about the open campus and what we're seeing as a possible connection between attendance before and after lunch. In this most recent year, students were 12% more likely to be tardy to class and 7% more likely to be absent, unexcused from class in the period immediately following lunch compared with the period immediately preceding lunch. In other words, kids were more likely to be on time and more likely to be attending 4th period. Then lunch comes and kids are more likely to be significantly late or absent. One might ask, well, was that possibly the case pre-pandemic? Interestingly, the data is an actual flip. So pre-pandemic in the 18-19 school year, kids were 13% more likely to be on time to 5th period than 4th period, which isn't uncommon. Having been in schools, that social time during lunch is fun, but it can cause angst to be in that social space, and kids hit that class and want to get back learning. Right? So kids were more likely to be on time to 5th period than 4th period pre-pandemic. 3% more likely to be attending 5th period generally without unexcused absences than 4th period. So that swing from 13% more likely to be on time to 12% less likely to be on time, that's a significant swing in kids being late to class as well as absence from class. And I shared with you at your last meeting that I would likely be coming to the board with a recommendation that the board consider closing the campus and returning to a closed campus status, which is what has been the case at Walla High School for the 10 years that I've been here, and long before that as well. It doesn't preclude the student body from coming back to the conversation with high school administration. And it doesn't mean that long term, we're glad to be in conversations with student leadership. When student leadership talks, adults need to listen. At this moment, though, I'm concerned enough about absences and the inability of students to get out and get back in the amount of time that they have, that I'd like to ask the board to consider closing the campus. I didn't bring a specific proposal tonight in case you had more questions or want to have more discussion. There was one other variable that I talked about last month, and that is the expectation that the quality of our food service, and approving the recent Sodexo contract. There was a clear communication from board members who were on that committee together with myself and Director McClung that we want to work with Sodexo around our expectations of quality of food service improve. So there's more incentive for kids to stay at school and have lunch. Those are some data points that I promised you I'd bring back, and I'm glad to answer questions. I do believe that it will be in our students' best interest to close our campus in terms of the data that I've seen today.
So
Director Stafford, you did.
I have a question about it. Sodexo, the food, what's changed? What's going to change in their food? What's going to make the kids want to stay on campus? And two, because I'm sorry, that food is like, anyway, I pack a lunch every day. But the other is what's the incentive for the kids to come back? Like, if the consequences, I should say, if you're not on time, consequences are, have we asked the kids why they're late? Are they stuck somewhere trying to get their lunch? Did they pre-order? That's a lot of questions. But did they pre-order so they could go and pick it up? Is their time frame only 30 minutes? Is it 45 minutes? I don't know. How long is their lunch period?
Yeah, they've got 30 minutes to walk out of room
that's
7
not enough time.
to the parking lot,
I can
to
see.
drive somewhere to get food, to get back. And anecdotally, what we're hearing is that students might show up at Taco Bell, but they're like, come on, I gotta get back to school. And Taco Bell doesn't operate on that 30-minute lunch.
Yeah.
So I can't see taking something away because structure in town isn't quite adequate.
Understood?
So, man, I loved open campus when I went to school here, so.
Yeah, I had it too, open campus.
I think I might ask this last week, but do we have a percentage of kids or enough, like a general number of students that are younger than junior? Because it's just supposed to be the juniors and seniors.
Yeah, freshmen are more likely to be attending regularly when you look at 4 grades. So the impact of open campus on our freshmen is apparently, again, you can't draw a direct connection. One of the challenges I hear from our high school administration is, Director Lockridge raised this question, is this a matter of personnel? Do we have enough? Is this an issue that could be solved with personnel? I think the right person to answer that question in terms of what it means, that looks like to manage a lunch with 400 students coming and going would be our high school principal. And so I could invite him to your next meeting if that would be helpful. I've been a principal myself a lot of years, just knowing the number of exits that we have. It would be very difficult to deploy enough staff to prevent students from leaving if the norm is it doesn't cause you to pause when you see a student in the parking lot. Pre-open lunch, seeing a student in the parking lot would cause you to pause.
Yeah.
And say, hey, where are you headed? But it's really common to see students in that parking lot. And so it leads to a real challenge, how do you determine their identity? How do you determine, do they in fact have parent permission? Are the kids that are riding along with them, do they have parent permission? The kid who's driving might, but, so it does become a real challenge. And not to suggest that it might not be possible in another community. I think our community and the way it's laid out and the resources that are available in a 30-minute lunch is just, again, Director Stafford, your observation got lost, me point to one variable and say that's the reason. I think it's a whole host of reasons that make our students at risk of not getting the education because they're not in class. In addition to safety concerns that we shared at the time we were talking about the pilot originally. And even though I don't have data tonight, and I'm not even sure if I have data I can connect it to open campus, the use of substances among adolescents climbed well above what it was pre-pandemic in our state. So adolescents are more likely to be using drugs and alcohol today than they were in 2019. And when I talk to our administrators and I see the number of substance-related incidents taking place in our schools, if we can mitigate that some by not having kids off campus during lunch, again, that's just another consideration.
Is it the same offenders? I mean, are we able to track which students are consistently late? Is it, you know, you have those kids that are like, yeah, you know, and they're always going to be late no matter what. Are they the repeat offenders? Is it just one student that might do this once in a while? Or are we able to gather that kind of information so that the repeat offenders could be like, sorry, you lost your privileges, come on, kind of
Yeah,
thing, you know?
that's what I was thinking.
It's like a hall pass.
So we do know who those students are, you know, losing the privilege. You could lose the privilege again, it becomes a matter of policing that during the transition times at the school. I did talk as well about, you know, the irony is sometimes when you think about what my consequence might be for being absent or skipping a class period is, you know, more school, right? More Saturday school. And the data that I've seen is that those punitive consequences are not a deterrent generally for the most chronic kids who would be inclined to take that risk. I think what's the best solution is to have class so compelling. The kids want to be in class, not just because of their friends, but because they want to be in class learning. So our teachers are working hard on that every day. But it's, you know, I put my 16-year-old hat on. As great as a teacher as Mr. Smith was in my AP biology class, Matt McDonald started to draw me out of the building pretty easily.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
My question, Tony, for you is you talked a lot about attendance. Are there any other factors that you kind of phrase or whatever, I won't sound, any other factors besides attendance that you think should be considered or are factors in returning to a closed campus?
That's my
So I think I've touched on them, so attendance and then risk to students by virtue of substances, drugs and alcohol, or car accidents. Thankfully, we haven't had students with car accidents anecdotally, and I can't speak for, you know, law enforcement or our other agency partners, or I can't speak for business either. Anecdotally, though, I don't get the sense that there's a desire to keep our campuses open one way or the other among other stakeholders, right?
No complaints from businesses about students or any trash around the area?
Lots of trash.
Lots, okay, so that's.
Now, lots of trash where? Around the
Where,
school
yeah,
or
around the school, or is
downtown
it-
in businesses where they're?
Lots of trash in the high school parking lot, it wasn't there
Okay.
before.
Yeah.
That is one, I guess it's one of the many,
Any car accidents with students being transported around?
not that I'm aware of, but again, it might be helpful. You know, Dr. Atherton would have the most immediate anecdotes about this or that on that
That would
level.
be
Typically, I
nice.
would hear if there's a car accident.
Yeah.
If there weren't injuries, I wouldn't necessarily hear of car accidents.
Yes.
How does Dr. Atherton, what is his
Yeah.
opinion on this?
I think we're aligned. You know, I met earlier today and he's been really the data guru behind this and analyzing the data. So data I'm sharing tonight comes from analysis that he's done. And as high school principal, I think the first flag for him was that first data point that I showed you. You know, the kids are likely, right? It's that much more likely to be missing generally post-pandemic.
Yeah.
We want to improve that with quality instruction and quality food from Sodexo and all these other strategies. open campus is just one of the arrows in the quiver, so to speak.
Did we do open campus for freshman through senior, or did we say junior to senior year?
Juniors and
Seniors. So you've got seniors that are out, juniors that are going up, sophomores that are coming up, and they're looking forward to that privilege, and now it's gonna get yanked from them.
Yeah.
I mean, should we not be giving them the lecture at the beginning of school saying, hey, this is on the table. You mess it up, we're gonna yank it away. I mean, give them the opportunity to prove it, because you've got like a whole new set coming in. So, I like to give kids the benefit of the doubt, so.
Yeah,
So I'd say,
I don't
I
think-
mean, I'm not, I don't know.
Yeah. And like I said, none of this is from
Knowledge.
where I sit as a criticism of kids, you know, kids are kids.
Yeah.
And what you're describing, you know, is an approach that one can take.
Right.
I was gonna say, I'm inclined to support the administration with respect to, yanking it, but on the other hand, you make a really good point, Terry. That, you know, maybe it's something you do, with a phased approach, you know, just warning all the, you know, let's not take it away now. Let's give all the kids a warning at the beginning of the year, you know, hey, we're looking at this and, we're considering eliminating it. However, if you guys make it look good throughout the school year, the attendance climbs, we don't have any more problems, you know, with respect to administration, then maybe we'll keep it, but at least for this year, it's still there. But you guys, if you guys, blow it, you're not gonna be blowing it for yourselves necessarily, you're gonna be blowing it for the class next year, and all those people who are, what they'd be, I guess they'd be sophomores this coming year. You know, they'll, I'm sure they'll have that expectation that they could be gone, and I don't know what pressure they could bring to bear over this. But
DJ?
it kind of makes a little sense to me.
My comment was, well, I wouldn't second, what Director Stafford said about the, some kind of, losing the privilege if you're late, you know, a certain number of times. And again, I understand where you're talking about, where that would be hard to police that with them out there. I have two other things. What would be, how hard would it be to extend the lunchtime maybe to 45 minutes rather than a half hour? I mean, a half hour to, I mean, even getting 400 kids through the lane there at the kitchen there at the school, I mean, that's gonna take time. They're gonna be, you know, scarfing their food down, not having a lot. You know, I don't know how hard that would be. That would be, I know that would be a big thing. But my other suggestion would be, what if we looked into bringing in food trucks? So they have other options right there at the school. There's a lot of them around this area. I'm sure there's a lot of them that we could reach out to, you know, in the Clackamas County area that would be more than willing to come out, park their trucks out in front of the school for the lunchtime, and you'll be able to serve kids out there like that too.
I'll respond to the general question or two.
Okay.
If I can comment on Director Lockwood's comments.
Yeah.
I'll come back to Director Cummings' questions. Something you said, Director Lockwood, made me pause and just remember back to the data. The data is most problematic at junior and sophomore. Seniors, they recognize that their graduation is on the hook, and they're watching their transcript, they're watching their grades. And seniors actually are coming back to school after lunch. It's the juniors that are the most problematic, and that's not that true. It's not our class of juniors. It's developmentally where juniors are, right? Because they don't yet have the high stakes of graduation looming. And they've got their driver's license. Sophomores typically don't. And so it's juniors that might be pulling sophomores with them, freshmen and seniors. So just a data observation. Director Cummings, your questions are good, reasonable questions. They bring up a lot of technicals of organization.
Yeah, I realize that.
To extend the lunch wouldn't be possible without a significant
Restructuring of the whole day of school.
It ties back to instructional hours and our contracts with our employees. Athletic schedules.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I kind of figured that, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
yeah. The food truck idea, good idea. It also ties back to one of the restrictions that we face around receiving federal reimbursement for free and reduced lunch. You can't bring in outside vendors to provide food during a school day.
Oh,
Okay. Didn't know about that.
Plus it would also bring the kids outside, which is what we're trying to avoid, right?
yeah, it'd be happy to be right outside.
I guess
the
if
parking
you
lot.
just do it.
Being outside the building has its benefits.
It does.
Being stuck in the
Free
school,
from
we
it.
have
Oh, yeah,
school,
yeah.
as adults working, we know as, I work at my house and I still have to go outside. I mean, I need
But
that
like
break,
within
but,
the. Granted,
yeah. it
Within
just-
the,
And I mean,
area.
if we present to the kids, we want them to think like adults, we want them to be mature, we want them to move forward. They have to learn at the same time, if you're leaving a mess in the parking lot, there's consequences to this. So, they have to hire themselves to go out there and police their parking lot and keep it clean. I don't wanna say policing themselves, but how else do you say it? I mean, if we don't put the responsibility back on them to make the smart choices, and that's what we're gearing them up to do. If we just say, oh, well, y'all didn't listen, so done, I mean.
well, it was
can we
a
be
pilot
more-
program and
Yeah.
then we had the pandemic. And then
Yeah, we had a lot
let
of
it
people
keep
have a lot of
going without
excuses.
saying, okay, you know. So actually, they've had quite a bit of time, I guess. Right,
Maybe
We say quite a bit of time, can you say more?
with
to
the,
adjust.
in the pilot program,
Yeah, so the pilot was supposed to run that spring, but then the school closed down. And so we didn't run the pilot that spring. We came back, then we did a full year in remote learning. And we came back for the 21-22 school year. Mr. Brzezinski and I spoke about, we'll give the opportunity to have that pilot get underway. And that's where I said, I didn't bring back data early in that year of 21-22. It wasn't until, again, this year we're looking at the data saying, so really effectively this, what would have been a spring trimester pilot has become a pilot of the better part of 2 school years. So that's part of the challenge. If bringing Dr. Atherton back to dive into your questions a little bit further, I'd like to do that because I think he may have more anecdotes that could help. And also be able to talk about, what options might look like, so.
I'd like to see it presented to the kids. I mean, can you call it an assembly? We haven't been to one in so long. Present it to them, say, hey, listen, this is on the table, this is what's gonna happen. I mean, if they
Invite them
don't
to
know,
come.
they don't have the knowledge. It just, I mean, I don't wanna just say no to somebody and not give them the knowledge and let them go, oh, I need to straighten up, I need to toe the line, and I have to make sure my classmates do it along with me or we lose it. So there's some responsibility on their shoulders, not us, but on them, because they're supposed to be maturing to that level of making decisions. So if they wanna drive, if they want the responsibility of going on campus, I say, let them know what the consequences are. Let them decide when we yank it if we have to, then they'll understand why. And they can't really, they'll complain, but it's like, sorry, we tried, and y'all buggered it up. So,
And again, I totally hear what you're saying. I'm not sure that kids, because again, my thinking, it's not that they've done anything wrong. Kids have been kids and the circumstances are such that to get out of our high school and get somewhere, get back are, but again, I think coming back with more discussion with Dr. Atherton, and we can even gather some feedback from, law enforcement in terms of their perception of traffic and lunch, our food service, businesses in town. We can speak with the chamber and see if there's more information that we can bring back to have this conversation. I do hear you're not wanting to make a decision tonight, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Just keep the conversation going, so I appreciate that.
and I do know we're getting more food businesses in town, so it's kind of like if we take this off the table too soon, before those businesses open.
Sure.
Those are extra opportunities to spread them out, but just kind of want the kids to be able to say, oh, choices, time management. That's the big one, time management. And where else do they learn it in high pressure situations like this too? they have to decide, do I take the risk and go off campus, or I just pack it and stay here, or that's part of the larger process.
Remark.
My other question is, what percentage of the students have permission to go off campus from their parents so that, you know, because I assume they have to have a parent. How many kids are actually doing that? Do we know?
Yeah, that's where I have to have Dr. Athens.
Okay, yeah, because that'd be interesting to know how that figures into that percentage is like, okay, we only, you know, if we have 50 kids going off, but it's making that, you know, 43 of them are tardy, which makes, you know, the overall school tardiness, the 13% or whatever it was, you know, that's another thing to look at too, is what percentage of those kids that are going off campus that have permission are being tardy, and, you know, if it's, you know, if the percentage of those kids is, you know, 97% of them are tardy back, then yeah, that's something we need to, you know, really address. You know, if it's, you know, six, 7 kids, you know, that making that percentage, you know, so that way we kind of have a better idea of that too. So,
With the pleasure of the board, I'd be glad to bring back with Dr. Athens.
Madam Chair?
the conversation.
I just, would it be possible, Tony, to continue this discussion with Dr. Atherton at our August work session?
You bet.
Okay.
I know there's things on the agenda at the business meeting, and I don't want to delay that, but I think the work session is okay with you, would be.
So we're gonna postpone this for the August work session?
The WPA presentation, the draft recommendation possibly.
Yeah. So I'm hearing an interest in having it back as soon as possible.
Yeah.
If it's all right, I'll work with board leadership, look at the other items on that agenda and talk about, because it is a full meeting with the possible recommendation coming back from the Green Advisory Council. So.
Yeah, also,
I
I'd like
bring back on.
Dr. Atherton to invite the students at the high school to come to the meeting.
And working with student leadership might be.
Yeah. That would be, and I
Well, that might
would
be,
for all of us.
I wonder if that would be a little difficult being the middle of summer, you know.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's right.
Like, well,
You think we're still in school, but we're not.
So whatever direction we go, whatever the interest the board wishes to go, I'll support.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not thinking with all thrusters here. Okay, Jurassic Parliament recommendations for adoption, 1C-4. Any
Well, Linda?
questions? Yes, Craig.
No, I just said, well, Linda, and I was expecting you to. Since you recognized me, I just wanted to point out a couple of things.
Yeah,
I understand, completely what this document is.
that's
It's
from that
basically
class.
kind of a synopsis, a very brief one
Yeah.
of basically Robert's Rules of Order. And the way meetings are already led in most places. We have here Malala-ized things a little bit, so that certain things that are in Robert's Rules of Order and on these pages are not done here, and probably to our detriment. You know, thinking back before
Yeah,
Amy and Terry got on the board, and Rob too.
yeah,
With respect to Jimmy's comment, I wanna make sure to point this out. I think most people, well, no, I won't say that. I won't say most people, but their consent agenda is one of the most misunderstood items of Robert's Rules of Order and of meetings in general. Tony's probably heard me say this before, or probably remembers hearing me say this before, that virtually every other government agency whose meetings I've ever attended has a consent agenda. And for some reason we don't. And we tried at one point in time, probably because of my urging, to get a consent agenda, and it lasted for about 2 meetings. The consent agenda, just, if I may I
yes, go ahead.
speak, Jimmy, the consent agenda is not something that cannot be discussed. It's more like, I hate the word here that says cannot be discussed. The items in the consent agenda are not discussed, not that they can't be. It's just that when the board leadership organizes, an agenda, they put those items that the board usually doesn't talk about into that consent agenda, because they know there aren't gonna be any questions about them. However, when you get to the board meeting, any board member can ask to have an item removed from the consent agenda and just put on the regular agenda, at which time it can be talked about, as much as anybody wants to talk about it. And then the wonderful thing about consent agendas is you can have 3 or 4 items that you just vote on together all at once. You don't have to spend, it's not time talking about it. It's, you don't have to spend time going, okay, I move that we approve the personnel report. Okay, I move that we approve the minutes. Okay, I move that we approve the surplus items report. You know, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be those things, but it could be anything that's non-controversial. You just put it in a consent agenda, and it just takes one motion and one vote, and then you move on to the rest of the meeting. And then as far as the rest of the things, the one thing I guess I don't like about the way this is laid out is that there's a lot of, like things like no one may speak and no interrupting.
Yeah.
And while those are good things, I kind of feel like, you know, sometimes you just, it happens, unfortunately. And so I feel like these are more like guidelines than like absolute rules. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we should always be doing these, but, if we were like to adopt something like this, is Craig gonna get censured if he accidentally interrupts Terry in the middle of the
Smackdown.
Yeah, I mean, it could be allowed, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm completely down with all this, and I love the way today, Linda, I noticed you've been kind of following along with
I'm
this.
trying to.
You're doing a great job, I think it's really fantastic. So that's all I have to say, thank you.
Well, I like the fact your consent agenda is just quick and easy and it's done, and normally you don't have to say anything unless there's a misspelling or whatever, or a sentence has been taken totally out of context. So I totally agree with you there, Craig. Go ahead, Amanda. I mean,
I like the consent agenda idea as well.
Yeah.
And then to your point where you like what's listed here, but you don't really want it to be a requirement. So
I would do that.
maybe we could, well, this is recommendations, right? I mean, it's not set in stone.
So, okay, so we can just say, we're just gonna follow the
No,
recommendation.
it's just kind of like, you know, how you, I think I've heard Tony use this term before, best practices or best practice, right? Kind of like that, it's the thing you always want to strive for, sort of a recognized industry standard, but sometimes you mess up. Does that make sense? Sometimes you mess up, but you're not gonna get punished for it because it's not a law, right? No one's gonna come along and give you a ticket because you violated the, you may not.
So I'll say point of order, state your
There you
order.
go,
Did it?
yeah.
I probably won't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm gonna
I
say
heard him say what area that you had brought up, but I didn't know exactly which point. I missed that.
So if you look under public comment, I believe it's like the 7th bullet point down.
Under public comment rules,
Yeah,
Yeah, there was
and which
five,
one?
there was 5 of them.
this one that says that, board meetings are a meeting of the board that are held in public and not public meetings.
Oh,
Where
okay.
did I see that?
This is
Yeah,
the
I saw
second
that.
one.
Second item under public
Oh,
comment.
there it is, yeah, second one, school
And-
board meeting is not a meeting of the public, it is a meeting of the board held in public,
So
which is what it is.
I would just say that, that's why I say maybe it's like a recommended thing, best practice, because the reality is, Jimmy, I hate to tell you this, but that is the truth. That is what this meeting is. And it's just reminding folks of that, but on the other hand, it's kind of like being slapped in the face, you know, if you're a member of the public sitting up there and you see that, you go, oh, what do you mean? So,
I don't think we've really operated that, I mean, we operate that way, but the public is really.
I like to hear from the
Yeah,
public, yeah.
exactly.
yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, it's.
We
It's a
keep
real
saying,
critical part of
be
it.
here and be a part of it, if they're like doors closed on them.
Yeah, we don't have enough time or meetings, so that we could just have just public comment meetings and just listen to the public like the Clackamas County commissioners do. They have actually a couple of nights, or one night at least a month, where they just have the public come in and say what they want to say, even if it takes 4 or 5 hours.
Of course, they do that because they have a lot more people who want to come to their meetings.
They definitely have the room filled. I've been there.
I think we definitely need more structure.
Oh, I agree,
A little
absolutely.
more,
So are we good with following these guidelines? Because I do need a motion tonight, and is there any corrections you want absolutely made with this thing, or?
At the risk of, the only thing that I think of is the fact that we're missing 2 board
Yeah.
board members. And I'm not sure, I think Neil might, and I can't speak for Neil, but I'm gonna try and channel it right now, that he might say, you know, we already have a board policy and we already adhere to Robert's Rules of Order. So I don't know why we need this, but on the other hand, from my own point of view, is yes, we do have those things, but it's nice to have some kind of guideline.
Yeah,
It's already written down that you can follow to help you remember those things, those Robert's Rules of Order.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember, and also I'm trying to dress up a little better, instead of looking like a slob half the time.
Is that in here?
I'm always a slob, you know that.
Wait. Are you saying that's in here? Because I didn't read that.
No, but I was thinking about adding it for myself.
I was like, hold on a second.
Must wear a suit and tie.
If my fellow board members would agree, then, I mean, if they felt similarly, I would wanna make a motion that it wasn't gonna pass unanimously, but, I would agree that maybe we could make a motion that we agree to adopt these items as a, you know, what a recommendation.
As a
Is that the word you used,
recommendation.
Amy?
We're gonna do
You
this
know,
without the others?
for following these recommendations in future meetings.
Okay. So you move
Something like that.
to,
No, I didn't move that. I'm just saying,
okay,
I wanna know that everybody else, thinks that's a good idea before I make the motion.
Oh, yeah.
I don't wanna stir anything up.
I do, this is coming out of the training
that we had.
that I missed, so this is good for me to read. I mean, I read the book, but it's good to have it laid out.
Yeah.
As such. And we haven't been doing these things, a lot of these things, so I think it's a very good reminder. And if you watch, I actually encourage other people to watch other school board meetings, whether it's Sherwood or wherever, because you'll notice that they're very structured and professional, and well,
Yeah.
most of them. And you'll see that at city council and, you know, different other organizations, so I think it would be good to be a little more, yeah.
What should your speaking chart look like?
Speaking chart.
That's right, it says
You're
you should
gonna
have a
use a
speaking
speaking
chart.
chart. How are you gonna do that one?
We'll dry erase.
Alright.
Well, we can keep adding to it. So,
I think it's just way down who speaks.
So if we just say the vice chair will keep track of it.
yeah, that's what it says. Vice Chairman.
But we take out the part about using a chart.
Exactly.
That does bring to mind one more point, regarding discussion and speaking, and I'm probably violating this right now, but it says no one may speak a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has spoken once. I would amend that to say until everyone who wishes to do so has been given the opportunity.
Then we need to rewrite that.
Because otherwise, I couldn't speak a second time unless everyone, is able to.
We've already overdone
That's right.
We've already done that, yes.
It's like 4 times now.
Okay, so go ahead, give me some of that rewrite, Craig, that you're so
What
good
is
at.
no one may speak a second time until everyone who wishes to do so has been given the opportunity to speak once.
Oh, I see, got it.
It actually says that.
So it has spoken.
Everyone
once.
who wishes to do so has spoken.
Has,
Or
yeah,
has
like I
been
said, has been
given.
given the opportunity to speak once rather than to
Okay.
has spoken.
Okay,
And
is there
could
any
we
other?
also, Linda, if I might,
Yes.
could I suggest that we, change item under regular versus consent agenda, rather than cannot be discussed, is not. Cannot, to is not. That be okay?
Okay, what are you saying, that consent agenda cannot, or?
No, is not. Consent agenda is
Is
not
not.
discussed or debated and is adopted with a single vote. Okay.
Yeah,
Wordsmith,
not discussed or debated, and is adopted with a single vote?
yes.
It says does not need a second member to motion for the point of order stuff. I only hear this in Congress, I don't hear this in other meetings.
But just when someone makes a point of order, it doesn't have to be seconded for the chair to rule on it. You don't have to have like two people agree to the point of order.
Did you guys go to that meeting, right, Terry? Did you get to go to Jurassic Park training? With Ann McFarland, did you get
That
that?
was,
book?
yeah, it was online.
Yeah. It was a virtual.
It was a
How long
virtual
ago was
meeting.
it?
You didn't go.
I think it was June, I wanna say June or May.
This is before I went to Philadelphia, so
It was before
it was
Mitch,
late May.
it was before Mitch came on, or was that just right after he came on board?
Was it the posted sticker thing?
No, it was this year.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did last month or the month before. I've been a lot of
But did
places.
you get the book from Ann McFarland, Robert's Rules of Order?
Oh, yeah, I
Jurassic
have the book.
Park? Okay, so, yeah, read that and it'll have all that information in there. Maybe we need to get Ann McFarland here again for another work session.
Well, you got the OSBA, that
You know, they don't train enough on
I know.
Robert's Rule of Order, they should. So are we going to adopt this or put it over for a little more rewrite?
Well, it has to be rewrote, right?
Well, I would say if those two records there.
Those two
I
things
made
that we
it,
changed, okay?
that's all I. unless
Okay,
anybody
so
else
I
wants
need a
to-
motion then. You want to approve this?
Subject to approval or missing.
What?
Okay, well, I'm just gonna throw it out there, y'all vote against that. I move that we adopt the Jurassic Park, or Jurassic Parliament meeting procedures as a recommendation for the conduct of all meetings of all River School Board.
I'll second.
Oh, as amended.
I've
Sorry.
noted.
I'll give you my amendments, Lori.
That's what I want, yeah. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Jurassic Parliament meeting procedures of the Malone River School District as recommended by the Malone River School District as amended be approved. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay, that's 5. All those opposed, 0. All those abstention, 0. Motion passes. Next. This is for information discussion, it's IGI or 1, it's the pillar number 8, and Tony, you can take it away.
Chair, as directors, each of the last meetings, I think really since your March meeting, I brought an update for you verbally on the ongoing collaboration with athletic boosters, community members regarding ideal athletic program priority number 8, which is facilities. The key priority that has our attention currently is what was brought to you at the May, so it wasn't March, it was May, by the boosters, asking that the board give direction to the administration to collaborate with the boosters on moving forward with a plan to turf Heckard Field. So we continue to do that, and I keep bringing updates to just keep you apprised of those, reading board minutes or watching the meeting. This is sort of a list on the screen right now of ground that we've covered. Again, that May 25th presentation by the boosters and community members and board action directing that we collaborate with them, and it's been a lot of fun. In June of 2023, we brought back an update which included some early financial analysis done by Director McClung and a conceptual, though not finalized, but a conceptual look at the cost of turf, which would include replacing the track at about $1.5 to $1.8 million. The cost conceptually at that point in time, again, no promises, is that Director McClung in his analysis saw a pathway or multiple pathways forward for funding 2/3 of that project. And that would always require board approval before we would ever move forward on anything like that. And some of the pathways that we talked about were using blended funding from general fund dollars to construction excise tax dollars. Director McClung also spoke about a pathway that a board could take in seeking a bank loan for a portion and paying off over a clear term. The community members, again, informally, there's nothing in writing. Boosters have signaled a desire to pick up exactly what we're talking about here, 1/3 of the cost, either in dollars or in kind labor, to accomplish this goal, this audacious goal for our community. Since that time in June, here in July, I've continued to collaborate with booster leadership, Dwight, in particular, together with Director McClung. I'm playing on Dwight's last name. Dwight Mason. Thank you. So Dwight and I have been in plenty of conversations. We've got regular text messages going back and forth and just keeping the communication flow open. The biggest item in front of us right now is the drafting of a grant application that we intend to submit to the Community Sports Development Alliance, which we've done some research, and I've not spoken directly with any recipients who have received, whose organization has received grant funding from this alliance while that current leadership was on board. But I've had superintendents confirm for me from other districts that they, in fact, their predecessors, some years ago, worked with this agency. They didn't have anything bad to say about that collaboration with this agency. So we've drafted an application together with community leaders, and we're prepared to submit that soon as in the coming days. I'm meeting with a representative from this granting agency on Wednesday next week, together with representatives of the community. And again, in those conversations we've been having leading to this point, there's been a general agreement with the boosters in the district that should we receive funds from this alliance, that the obligation that we're talking about, 66.6% being that of the district, 33% being that of the community, the grant funds would offset those obligations in a commensurate way. So we receive $100, let's say we received $100 in grant funds from this agency, it would offset the district's obligation by $66, the community's obligation by 33. Those are informal conversations. At some point, we're gonna have to get this to a formal place where there's an agreement in writing and we can manage expectations. We all know what the end game looks like, but I'm really having a lot of fun collaborating with Dwight. The other agreement that we've had informally is that any additional grants that are sought by community voices, by the boosters, whether that's in sponsorship from MCC or sponsorship from Les Schwab Tires or sponsorship from any businesses or individuals who are contributing donations, that's all running through the boosters as a nonprofit. And we've informally agreed that all of that revenue would offset because the boosters are the ones seeking those donations, it would offset the boosters and the community's obligation. That's the spirit behind the community be part of the solution. Make sense? So the only portion of grant dollars that we would use to offset our obligation would be from this Community Sports Development Alliance. Any other grants, donations are gonna run through the boosters. It's their leadership of the community coming to bear on that 33% obligation. Again, none of this is right again, these are just informal conversations, but I wanted to keep the board apprised, and Dwight is aware that I'm sharing this, this is public information at this point. So what are the next steps? The next step, number one, is submit the grant. A grant of this nature, according to all River School District Board policy, requires that your board take action to accept the grant. So typically the board would, just in the work of the superintendent, we apply for lots of different kinds of grants at different times. We would bring proposals back to the board after we've gotten an approval to receive that grant. Not in the grant writing phase. I've kept the board apprised of the spirit here, so hopefully there's no surprises at some point in time. Hopefully I'll come back saying this alliance is prepared to fund and ask your permission to accept that grant. Again, board's fully in control here, both in the grant receipt, but also making any decision to spend any dollars, whether it's construction excise tax or general fund or whatever the case might be. So there's work in progress. And as I said earlier, an upcoming task will be to draft, work with legal counsel to draft an agreement with the boosters being the nonprofit that we're in partnership with. And that would come before the board for your review before we replace it. We're making any official commitments, but I'm proud of, the work that the community is doing to collaborate with us. I've had a lot of fun with it. I really believe that we're gonna get this to the finish line. The possibility here, if it's true, and it's well publicized on their website, I'll share it with you here. Tough to see on the sides of the screen here, but the CSD Alliance has a history of funding up to 65% of the costs associated with the synthetic field. And you can visit their website if you wish. I'll project that on the screen here too, just as a background. I'll share. Again, this is the nonprofit that we'll be meeting with next Wednesday. And my hope is we just keep moving this forward. So I'm not answering any questions you have, but I want to make sure we're keeping the board informed in public meetings about the work that's happening.
Is this the only grant organization of its kind?
It's the only grant organization of its kind that I'm aware of. And we became aware of this because of the leadership in the community spotting this and saying, hey, can we bring them? So I've never, in fact, I was skeptical that one even existed. Apparently this is a legitimate organization, and I'm looking forward to meeting with them next week. I'll bring more information. To answer your question directly, I know of no other such granting organization.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just wondered, and Tony may already know the answer to this, but, there are all those major sports apparel manufacturers in Oregon, who all are always, making donations, mostly buying sponsorships actually, we were talking about, right? Are they part of this grant consortium or whatever? Or is there a possibility that they might have a foundation or something that we could apply to for more money, such as an Adidas or a Nike or whoever, that type of organization?
So I have two questions in there. One, are those athletic organizations part of this alliance? I'm not certain. A related response is that in our most recent discussions with Booster Leadership, we talked about collaborating. This is a common occurrence in other communities, collaborating to identify sponsorship and the value of sponsorship in the context of branding and signage. So we've not finalized any of that yet. That again would come before the board. But it's not uncommon for a community to say at a $10,000 donation from a business, that business brand will exist in this space on the fee. I'm making this up right now, I'm just grabbing that number randomly. Again, we're not going to enter any of those agreements without coming back to the board.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
Athletic firms might be part of that.
got a Nike swoosh at midfield, right? You know, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. Whatever, I mean, I don't care. This is the only time I'm not paying money.
Did you have a comment?
When is are the boosters coming back to us, are we gonna be working more with them, or do we need to go to them to help out with this? I was actually reached out to by a community member about possible help with the excavation and whatnot out there, a possibility of that being taken care of for $0 out of our pockets. So I didn't know who I need to get a hold of to get them that information to see if we can get that moving forward, because I know that that's a huge part of the cost of doing that. So, are they coming back to us, or we need to go to them, how does that work?
So in this partnership with the boosters, my experience has been it works most smoothly if we've got single points of contact. So the single point of contact with the boosters is Dwight. Single point of contact with the district is myself.
Okay,
And so in this case, I know that Dwight has had conversations with excavation firms as well. He's, got lots of people contacting him. He is the lead voice with the boosters representing the community, and I would encourage, members of the community to reach to him in that respect.
okay. Or now can I present with, say, hey, this community member reached out to me. Here's their contact information, get a hold of them? Is that okay?
You can direct Dwight what to do, but
Well, I can give him that information, that's what I'm asking. I don't have to send it through you.
no, and in this case, I think we're really differentiating between community and that 33%.
Yeah.
Boosters and their leadership as a nonprofit, and then the district. So yeah, I think pointing folks to Dwight would be terrific.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see.
All right. Anybody else? No, we're good? All right. Next up, board comments. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Rob, do you have anything to say for board comment?
This one, thanks, Director.
Okay, great. How about you, Terry?
I have a 7 piece.
Amy?
I just want to say thank you to Daniel for always taking care of us,
Yes, me too.
Where's that?
and for,
Yeah,
for Jimmy for always showing up.
yes. Giving us good advice. And I have no board comments either, so I'll just go on to the upcoming meetings. August 10th, business meeting, August 24th, work session, and I just need a motion to adjourn.
So approved.
Okay, it's been adjourned. We're all dismissed.
Nice job, Linda.
Yeah, thank you.